with that, our next session is called, What is the Best Project Delivery Method? So this session will be moderated by David Scott. So David is the Columbus managing partner and co-vice president of the law firm Brennan Manna Diamond. He applies his skills as a litigator, arbitrator, mediator, and negotiator to resolve all manner of business, real estate, and construction conflicts. He was part of the team that created the COGENCE Alliance Top 10 Risks to Every Design and Construction Project series and How to Avoid the Greatest Risks. He is a member of COGENCE Alliance Central Ohio Board of Directors and is also the programming chair for Central Ohio. So David, please fill us in on what is the best project delivery method.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone. We're going to have to tease the audience. We're not just going to give it away. Come on now. You don't know that. So, yeah, I'm Dave Scott. Like I said, I'm just a caveman litigator. So what we really have here is an outstanding panel. So I'm going to introduce all of them first. We have Jennifer Sun. Jennifer, you can wave to nice people. Director of Projects, Facilities, Operations, and Development, Design and Construction at The Ohio State University. We did this a week ago. I did a call out of the OHIO because Jennifer went to Michigan. But I'll spare you that today, Jennifer. Exactly. Yeah. Jennifer's a registered architect with over 25 years of experience, co-leading team of 22 project managers at The Ohio State University. She's also the president of COGENCE Central Ohio. We have Lori Bongiorno. Lori is also an architect, the chief operating officer at MA Design. Lori she's a registered architect in 20 states. She's also a lead AP with over 30 years of experience, including the design of Easton Town Center, where we are here today. We have Adrian Straver. Adrian is an MBA, project management professional, certified construction manager, and project executive at Barton Mallow Builders. Adrian has over 17 years of experience with focus on collaborative project delivery in healthcare and higher ed. She's also an instructor in construction systems management at The Ohio State University. We have Kris Edwards. Kris Edwards is Vice President of Business Development at Valley Interior Systems, experienced carpenter and foreman. Valley has 6 regional offices, over 1,200 team members. Kris is heavily involved in notable projects such as the Crew Stadium, Ohio State University Wexner, and also Intel. Last, not least, we have Ed Keener. Ed is a professional engineer, lead AP, partner and director of business development at Korda, over 30 years of experience managing multidisciplinary teams, including international projects. Ed is one of the original members of COGENCE Central Ohio. So that is who we've got with us here today. Toggle back and forth between our different systems here. All right, so we're going to talk today about project delivery methods. There's already been quite a bit of research and discussion on project delivery methods. For example, these 5 factors are cited from an article from 2022 from Autodesk. Factors to consider. I doubt anyone is really going to be terribly surprised that among the factors to consider when we're going to identify a project delivery method would be things like budget, design, risks. We're going to talk a little bit more about risks in a minute. Schedule, owner expertise. We've got Jeff Applebaum in the audience, right? Jeff has presented numerous times on project delivery methods. So once it's been covered by these smart people, what more is there really left to talk about? Well, we in Central Ohio COGENCE asked that exact question. What is there to talk about? So what we did in COGENCE Central Ohio is we did a multi-part series focused on project delivery. Now, what we did is we essentially asked 4 different owners. So the methods that we evaluated, CMR, design bid build, and IPD, right? And we did a series of programs starting in September of 2023. What we did is we identified a particular owner, an owner that primarily subscribes on that particular project delivery method. So we brought in The Ohio State University to talk about CMR in September 2023. In November 2023, design build, we brought in Columbus City Schools. January 2024, design bid build, Columbus Parks and Rec. March 2024, IPD, we brought in Independence Construction and Barton Mallow Builders. So what we did is each owner talked about why. Why does that owner subscribe to that method? And then we, the different COGENCE constituents, then evaluated what issues are important to us, right, from each industry discipline relative to that project delivery method. What are the unique aspects from each of our different perspectives is what we asked. So now we're not going to do Mentimeter. We're going to do old school Mentimeter. So show of hands in the audience, which project delivery method is the best? So let's start with CMR. Who thinks CMR is the best? We got some hands in back there. All right, a lot of folks think CMR is best. Okay, design build. Who thinks design build is best? Oh, I got a couple, quite a few hands there. Design bid build. Who thinks, got some design bid builds as well. Last but not least, who thinks IPD? IPD is the best. Got a good number of folks who think IPD is best. Well, we're not going to tell you yet which one is the best. We're going to talk a little bit further about it. What we did through Cogence is gathering all this data. What we decided to do is, after evaluating, owners telling about why, right? Each of us explaining the issues or the questions or the concerns we have as industry disciplines about each project delivery method. We then had to figure out, what were we going to do? The Cogence wheel is usually on the slide. Our little Cogence wheel didn't, oh, there it is. So the Cogence wheel. So what we did is we filtered each of the issues. So we identified the issues, and then we filtered these issues through the context of the top 10 risks. What unique risks may be associated with each project delivery method? So these are basically the top 10 risks. I think folks may have seen the presentation that I delivered at the town hall a couple of years ago, where we actually did a deeper dive into the risks. So when I say the top 10 risks, these are the risks as Cogence. A couple of years ago, Central Ohio, we defined the risks, and then we did a rank order of all of these risks to determine what are the top 10 risks, not just overall, but also according to each different industry discipline. Then we took it a step further. Again, coming back to the idea of project delivery methods, which is we then identify them through the context of risk. Well, what kind of risks do you mean? Well, this is a slide, again, what we started off our series with was actually Jeff Applebaum's presentation. And included in Jeff's slides is the AIA B201. So how many folks here already knew that in the B201, the architect shall prepare a preliminary evaluation of the owner's program, including the proposed procurement and delivery method? So if architects didn't know that, or folks who didn't know that, well, there's a potential risk that you've got, because that could fall within your standard of care. So on your desks right now, you'll find in the middle of the table should be a copy of the deliverable that we created. So we're going to break some PowerPoint rules here. What I would like everyone to do is actually to have that. So what the panel is going to do today is we're going to help everyone understand what it is, this data that Cogence Central Ohio learned about the different project delivery methods. We organized it, we evaluated it, and we created this deliverable. Because it's very easy for folks to come to these presentations, right, to hear a bunch of high-minded ideas, and then to go back home and do things exactly as we always have, okay? The idea here that we want is to help everyone understand, what is it? What is this data that we've gathered? How and why did we evaluate it the way we did? And then how can you use it, take it from today going forward, and potentially provide a benefit to yourself, your organizations going forward? And with that, I will pass the baton to Lori Bongiorno. Lori was critically involved in the creation of this, and Lori is going to actually guide everyone through exactly what this deliverable is and what it is that we're looking at.
Great. Is this working? Okay. So the front page really walks you through the process that David just walked everyone through, so we won't spend a lot of time on that front page. When you open it up, there's a definition of all the 4 main delivery methods that we workshopped, and we took the feedback from the roundtable breakout sessions in each of those meetings and reworded the concerns or risks into action items, so that if you're working in a certain design or delivery system, things to consider, questions to ask, and then identify the associated risks, which are color-coded to the right, that are being mitigated by asking those questions. we tried to be very rigorous about identifying the risks because in our discussions, pretty much it would have been every single box colored in. So you can make an argument for every risk to be mitigated by each of these questions, but we tried to be a little more rigorous about how we applied that. The idea being that, can I break it to them?
Break it down.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. There is no one best delivery system. There are some that we had a roundtable discussion where we gave scenarios of different projects and thinking that, well, this scenario is definitely going to be CMR and this scenario is definitely going to be design build. And in those sessions, we learned that there was a lot of disagreement about what was best. So what's best is what, there might be 2 or 3 that apply to a certain project. And the way we would then use this, instead of picking the best, is use it to identify what you need to watch out for and what questions you can ask to mitigate risks depending on what delivery method there is. So, did that make sense?
It made good sense to me.
Okay, good. And then the last page is IPD, and I'm going to hand it over to Adrian. But IPD was different. Columbus doesn't have any examples of this, I don't think. We tried to find an example of where this method had been used. So we reached out to our friends in Cleveland who have used it a lot. So this is different because we don't have the experience to draw from.
Yes, so this worksheet really indicates how to implement IPD. I know we're going to dig into that a little bit more, but ultimately IPD, everyone may be concerned about the contractual obligations, and there are a lot of ways to still incorporate this IPD approach within project execution. So with that, our team from Barton Mallow has done multiple projects that are still in this IPD mindset, but don't actually have the contractual obligation, and I think people might quote them the light version. I think the one thing that we talked about in our presentation is there is nothing light about IPD. IPD is true team commitment from all parties and really digging in from the beginning. So with that, we're looking at the CMs, the owners, the architects, the trades, the affiliates, like everyone has to be on board with the buy-in, and it's really an empowered project where people are communicating openly, transparently, and we're trying to mitigate all of these risks. This includes the target value delivery with the estimating. So we are cohabitating, working together, and truly, coming together as a team in a very unique way. So it is possible. I think there's a lot of CMs that are interested in this mindset and are wanting to incorporate this because through all of our, in looking at this, there's so many risks, but the more that we work together, the more that we, vet all of these things out, we're able to have a really successful projects as a collective.
So the makeup of our panel, having one representative from each of our COGEN constituent groups was actually by design, right? That was purposeful and intentional. And I believe that we have in our audience probably representatives of each of our different disciplines. And so the first question that I will ask to each panelist, again, hearkening back to this deliverable, right? This piece of paper that you're all looking at with a lot of information. The first question to the panel would be, speaking from your perspectives, right? From each discipline, what is the value of this deliverable to you? How can it provide value to you or your organization going forward? Maybe starting with Lori.
Well, I think that if you are working on a project with one of these delivery methods, just take a look at the action statements here and make sure you're addressing those as you set the project up. Also, I really like the last page the best, the IPD, ways that we can take principles of IPD and apply them to any delivery method to have a better outcome. I plan on sharing this with my team back at the office so that we can all understand how we ourselves can make a project go better.
So often as a CM, the architect could potentially be the first seat at the table. When we get on board, we don't necessarily have the opportunity to sway a decision on what the delivery model is. So like Lori said, the understanding of the risks and how we can be proactive is ultimately how this deliverable, I find extremely helpful. It's really interesting that our last roundtable, how we did have prescriptive projects that it seemed like in our head, oh, that's 100% going to be one way. It did not end up resulting in that. So because of that, I think we need to understand what the action items are and show application to our whole team.
And from the trade side, keep going, sorry. From the trade side, we're always kind of the last ones that, you have the owner, the design team, the general contractor, the construction manager, and they're looking at everything, and we don't really have a voice. But what we've discovered over the last few years and with COGENCE and everything is getting us involved earlier takes a lot of risk off the owner, the design team. So it's nice to see the options and to know, like, hey, okay, I have this much to work with. I have this schedule. Here's my risk. Which one should I choose? Is really good for that. But for us, for trade speaking, we're trying to partner with the right GCs, the right CM, and to make sure we can try to get in early to give our voice on this too. And like Lori said on the last page, I mean, that says it all. That's when we have true involvement from day one, and we're not, as a trade partner, saying, well, give me a contract. It's a team effort right out of the gate.
So at the risk of losing future business with the Ohio State University, I'm tired of just going down the line here. I'm going to jump in front of Jennifer. Very similar, as an engineer, very rarely am I involved early on in the discussion of what the delivery model is. However, there are instances where I may have relationships with the maintenance folks, or the director of facilities, and they either need to change out a piece of equipment, or maybe somebody's approached them and said, hey, we're thinking about this project, what are your thoughts? So having this tool here is very beneficial to start that conversation with them. I think this is most beneficial for those folks that either A, don't have a lot of experience building, or B, have always done it one way. And so having this opportunity and this tool here to say, okay, I'm familiar with this and this, here's some information about this other option, let's have the discussion, maybe you can help, bring that back up the chain of command and make a different decision.
It'll take more than that, Ed, for us to not want to work with Korda. Okay, so I get wrap up. I think, BEST is the method that has been selected through rigorous thought. It needs to be considered based on the scope of the project. What are the keys to success on that particular project? What are the constraints of that project? And you'll see a lot of reference to, when time is valued more than budget, et cetera. Those kinds of things, you'll see reference to that in here. What's the expertise of the owner? What was really eye-opening to me when we had Columbus City Schools come in and talk about their design build, how much it really relied on the owner knowing how to execute, how to really be in the driver's seat on that delivery method, and really elevated the risk of that delivery method being selected when that owner was not yet savvy, practiced, really understanding all of the, the way that that's set up. So I would say also the thought around that is going to leverage the relationships that you have with your partners. If you have done work at Ohio State on a regular basis, you have probably received calls and emails outside of projects that say, hey, what's your opinion on this, right? We do reach out to the people that collaborate us on work to get your input and consideration and your perspectives on the work that we are planning for. I'm going to take this back to all of FDC as well and have this conversation of don't discount consideration around project delivery method, and call Korda, call Whiting Turner, call Messer, and what do they think? What's the architect's perspective on what's important around this particular scope of work and these constraints, and how do we arrive at the best way to deliver this project on the very front end before that RFQ goes out?
So the next question that I had planned to ask the panel was to be, well, why? Why is there no singular project delivery method that's the best? And I think through the course of this dialogue, I think you've all answered basically that question already of why is there no best method. So instead, we'll jump to a little bit of a different thing. And Jennifer, let's
I'm sorry,
pick back.
David. I'm gonna butt in. I just want to. This was so striking to me, and Lori mentioned it, Adrian mentioned it, but I just want to make sure like everybody hears this message. When we did our roundtable on these like scenario-based exercises, what do you choose? We had 4 tables for breakout, and literally for every scenario, we had every project delivery method represented in the report out, which was a little bit mind-blowing and really illustrated for me. I've been working in this industry for a long time. I've spent time on the design team side, and I spent a lot of time with construction managers as well as projects are being built. I thought I knew, and to hear the conversation and the arguments for all of the different considerations, it just really drives home the fact that the work we do is complex and dynamic and wrought with risk, and that there are the opportunity that COGENCE provides to have those discussions and to highlight that we all are bringing different, slightly different perspectives to the table was just the biggest validation moment of why we have COGENCE at all. And specific to this, really emphasized the importance of a thoughtful approach to selecting a design delivery. Sorry, David.
And with that, there was the scenario, but there was also like the soft skills that were necessary in our analysis. Like how much experience did the owner or the partners in that project have, despite each project delivery having pros and cons, it really depends on the team collective and who's at a seat at the table on will that project delivery method succeed based on experience, based on if you have completed that before, and is that the mindset of your company? Do you embrace what that delivery model offers?
So piggybacking on what Jennifer and Adrian just said, and so everyone understands exactly what we did. Imagine a room like this, but with only 4 tables, right? And what we literally did is we created hypothetical projects. And then we had each different table consider, based on some of the data, based on a preliminary version of that deliverable, consider which project delivery method is the best one for that particular project. Thinking, as Jennifer had said, that there's going to be a foregone conclusion. Everyone is going to come probably to the same answer. Nobody did. And so a follow-up question on that, though, would be, has anyone on this panel, have you ever done an exercise like that in the real world, where a project has come, and you're like, okay, which project delivery method do we think is best, and then done an evaluative process of that? Has that ever happened in the real world?
In my experience, not yet. And I say that because what this showed me is it really, really has to happen. And we always have this idea of speed to market, speed to market, speed to market, and assumptions around, how projects are going to be delivered. Joanne, you kind of nodding, right? Like in our environment, it arrives and project manager comes and he says, okay, I'm going to do this design bid build. Here it is, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's pause, right? We got to think about it. So I think we do need more rigor around this.
So then, well, go ahead.
I had the opportunity to work on the owner's rep side for approximately 9 years, and during that time, often it was just dictated on how we're delivering a project. But when I was at some specific owners, it's always like after the fact, like we should have done it that way. Like that's always the way, like our analysis is and our lessons learned, and when we're debriefing after a project. But we've had some complex renovations that applying allowances in a CM at risk model would have been so much more helpful. But again, that specific place, it was a board decision that they're only doing design bid build. So, while I was there, I pushed for quite a while to educate the board. I went to multiple board meetings to, talk about how the execution could be different for them, and they could still have that competition that they're so wanting. And still getting better results with their budget or more confidence, because we did have large project overruns that unfortunately were a detriment to them.
Piggybacking on the theme that Mark Bryan had picked up on, which is the answer to the question of why do we do it this way? If the answer is because we always have, that might not be the best answer, right? So an owner that may use a particular project delivery method because they always have, that might not be the best answer. Right? And so I think, again, the hallmark of COGENCE is trying to understand the different perspectives of each of our disciplines. So now I'd like to wonder right now, so maybe Jennifer, we can start with you as the owner, which would be knowing now what you know, what do you think would be the ideal way for the owner to be engaged in selecting a project delivery method? And then I'd love to hear from everyone else, ideally, in a perfect world, we're not in a perfect world, in a perfect world, what's the ideal way to engage each of your respective disciplines in determining a project delivery method?
We have leadership meetings, FDC. We review every RFQ before it goes out. And I will say we have not yet had enough rigor around this conversation. I think that we need to take the steps that I suggested before and reaching out to the community, because we only know what we know. And none of our projects are successful without everyone's success in it. So we just need to be more engaging. We need to we need to recognize that this is never a no-brainer, and it takes a minute of thought to make sure we're on the right track.
So the only time we get the opportunity to, now I know it's my responsibility. Thank you for that. To comment on that is, after COVID and when all the pricing just went crazy, we were recommending away from design bid build to CMR with some success, and we've seen that be kind of more of a predominant method lately. I don't know how we get more of a voice in that, though.
I would invite you all to push back on us. So we're gonna send an RFQ out. There is always the opportunity to send some questions into that PM. You get some clarification around some things, and then we can send out, an addendum that everyone gets, all the answers, whatever. Make that one of your questions, right? Or maybe a suggestion, right? Like our team has looked at this. We don't think that your selected delivery method is maybe best, and here's why. Is there opportunity to reconsider? Let's take the collaboration and build it into our process.
So kind of doubling down on that is the collaborative process. It would be fantastic if everybody was brought to the room, to work through this. Because to Lori's point, we've definitely seen a lot more projects being driven to design, build, and CM at risk because of pricing and schedules. And there's a lot of benefit to that, but the problem is when it's done in a vacuum, it's horrible. Because what happens, we're kind of putting the CMs in the driver's seat, which is not a bad thing. But you know, we're all worried about time as well. And so when only one group is driving everything, other groups tend to suffer. So it's by the collaboration, get us in the room, like, okay, is this really the best model? And when we're having that discussion, you know, what is really driving this project? Is it budget? Is it schedule? Yes, it's both. But is one winning out, or is there something else to consider? So if we can get in the room, all of us in the room, say, okay, this may be good for you, but understand this is really bad for me. Maybe we can compromise. And I think we really need to be driving. I like the idea of questioning the delivery model, because all too often, every RFQ that I see, I'd say 95% of them, that delivery model has already been selected by somebody else, quite often by somebody who has no idea what that means for everybody else.
And I think with CM at risk and design build, it may be, oh, well, we're immediately getting engagement and pushing, as an owner, pushing that onto the CM and the design team, like get moving. But there still is a lot of effort necessary from the owner to be engaged. So that expectations, like Ed said in the beginning, is really important, that everyone understands their part to play in the team to make that project delivery successful. I know when we were talking, prior to this, just kind of getting ready, we thought it was, interesting that, there are some CMs that still run CM at risk projects and just tell the trade partners to hard bid the job. And that's how they're treated. And so we're truly not getting the benefits of that CM at risk delivery model. So I don't know if you have anything to.
Yeah. To take. To piggyback off that, that's a real thing. We're told all the time to be apples to apples, and you're not bringing value. So we're worried about our number turning it in to get the project. We're not bringing any value. There's a 1 week period to turn in your RFIs and move on. Give us the low number. It's a real thing, and the other side of that is how much it puts on the GCs and the CMs. As a contractor, it's really easy to say, well, I don't have a contract yet, right? You tell me what you want me to do. I'm not being proactive, and I'm not being a part of a team. I'm not engaging. I'm just sitting back waiting to be told something. And then the other issues with these is just the fact that the way the contracts are written, like, I can't talk to you, right? I can't talk to you. I got to talk to the GC, who then is my voice, hopefully, and then it comes back. So we really, need to look at how we're doing things and how we can bring everybody to the table so we have 100% involvement and get the trades, get the engineers, get the owners, get the designers, get even the insurance people, right? Lawyers, right? Get everybody involved.
I'll spare everyone a lawyer joke. So, Jennifer, you kind of touched on this a second ago, which is you kind of came into this and you had some preconceived notions, right? I mean, we all thought that we knew these things, but you don't know what you don't know until you realize that, right? So I guess the question next would be, as far as the data that was gathered through the process we went through, I guess what would each of you believe would be the thing you were most surprised about, or perhaps a thing or two that you find most noteworthy about what we learned through the process?
For me, I was really interested by the one about design bid build and just how much success that the owner was having in that and the amount of projects that they executed. And I did understand that when they started explaining some of their types of projects, but at the exact same time, it's still It was a bit eye-opening to me because we all talk about collaboration, communication, everyone getting together earlier. Just how that was such a strong delivery model and successful, and that's what that's what it was. I think that was for me my biggest eye-opener.
What's funny about that, we do a lot of work with that owner, and they are a joy to work with. So it goes really well, design, bid, build. So I don't know if that's why.
I think a lot of it has to do, we keep saying there's no best one, right? And there really isn't. There's pros and cons to everything, but it's all comes down to the culture of the owner, the team that comes together. We always are trying to figure out what makes people happy, what gets people going, what motivates them. And it really all comes down to the culture. And I think that's a big driving factor when it comes to choosing one of these and the success of them.
And the team. I think the most eye-opening conversation that I had in that series was with the CM at my table, and we were talking about pre-construction services, and that the CM is only going to put forth the effort relative to the fee that is being paid for that pre-con. And so, it really is on that owner to make sure that they're funding that appropriately. And the CM, looked at me and he says, well, we're going to do what we have to do. We're going to invest the resources that we need for successful pre-con because we know how important it is. And really, showed the willingness to contribute to the success of that project, not just based on that cost model, but the desire to lean in and drive towards success in a way that maybe the fee structure hadn't really caught up with yet, recognizing that value. So, to me, back to my team, we're really trying to dive in on what is the outcome we want of pre-con, what are the deliverables during pre-con, what does the engagement look at like, and what is the correct cost, what is to us, how do we fund that appropriately so we can get what we want. So then this kind of goes back to the selection of delivery method too. Can we, how we are cash flowing a project has to be appropriate to the scope of that work. And so that kind of collaboration might sound fantastic, like why don't we do that on every project? It isn't always appropriate to the scope of the work. So we do need to be intentional about where we are aligning projects, the project timeline, the scope, the budget, the complexity of that work to a project that needs to be funded in that way, that maybe is going to front load in order to get that engagement funded.
And I would say what surprised me was quite often how little thought is put into that delivery model selection process. Sometimes it just goes, well, this is the way we've always done it. And it's a good reminder for me that change is hard. And a lot of people are unwilling to change. So having a tool like this and having these discussions has opened my eyes to say, okay, maybe there are different ways and there are pros and cons. But like I said, I was really surprised. Oh yeah, we've always done it this way. This is the way we're going to do it. It's worked okay for us. I don't want to try anything new.
Let's talk more about that concept of change that Ed just brought up. So COGENCE, right? We like to consider ourselves to be change agents. Our mission is literally transformative, right? But as Ed just said, change is hard. And in a hot minute, we're going to pivot to have a little bit of a dialogue about IPD and some things that Jennifer is actually implementing to change the way that things are done at The Ohio State University. But quickly, one more question before we pivot to that, which is further to the narrative of change. What is something, if anything, that any of you would change or perhaps do differently, having gone through the process and having the knowledge you now have that you didn't have before?
Reiterate some of the things that I've said. We can be more intentional when we're making selection, but then also encouraging our design team partners to consider what goes out in that RFQ and help us understand that we're on the right track. Maybe we need to be a little bit more vocal about soliciting that feedback.
For me, it would be feeling like I can give my input at an RFQ response or an RFP response on if I felt that the delivery method wasn't appropriate.
For me, it is to be empowered to ask the questions, what are the project risks on behalf of the owner, ask them, and also make sure that we're obtaining that information from our trade partners and architect. I mean, having that knowledge is so important. So by identifying that, then we can manage to it.
Mine's pretty short and sweet. The only thing I would want to change about it is just being more involved, having that voice. Again, I keep saying as a trade partner, it's really easy to just lay back and wait for everybody, but why can't I just speak up? Doesn't even matter what delivery method we're doing. It's doing the right thing. It's having that integrity. And yeah, I might not have the low number, but I'm still going to speak up and have a voice. So many times in the past, it's just been low number, low number, low number, but we need to stop that and do the right thing for the owner and for the CMs and GCs out there.
When you're putting together your 330 responses, I would ask that you make sure that the voice of your technical expertise is coming through, not as marketing speak, but as what you can understand about what's important about the project as the scope description has laid it out. And relative to the delivery method, how have you worked within this delivery method to bring best advantage? When you're submitting on a design build project, how have you worked with these partners, with so constructor, how have you worked with your design partner, your selected design partner on this submission to be successful? I ask my project managers to really look through those documents, and they can be really long and wordy, but what speaks to the specifics of this work that is already starting to demonstrate dedication to understanding the scope of the work and really being the best choice to deliver the project.
With that, let's pivot quickly to IPD. And Jennifer, I know that you've been implementing some newer, different things at The Ohio State University. Maybe chat for a time with folks about that.
Yeah, so if you look at that last page, in the bottom left corner, you see some impressive metrics that were provided by Barton Mallow on the success of the projects that they have delivered in an IPD mindset. And I want to emphasize that, like what you said, Adrian, collaborative project delivery doesn't have to be about an IPD contract. It is about the mindset of the team. There has been a lot of conversation at this town hall about collaboration, about what it takes to build strong teams, and leveraging the strength of the team. And when it comes down to it, it is a team that delivers a successful project and not any one aspect of that team. So how can we at OSU start to work towards some of these success metrics on our projects?
And Jennifer, the context additionally being that for public projects, IPD essentially, due to a number of statutory elements, is you literally cannot do true IPD on a public project.
Not available to us.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So
Yeah.
with that context.
Yep. So, can we? What can we do to more successfully ensure that the behaviors that come along with the way IPD is designed are practiced on our projects, and in particular our CMR projects? So we want to get there. So what we have been working on is revising our family of procurement documents that would normally be CMR. We're kind of calling it CMR with enhanced collaboration. And we're putting the language in that initial RFQ that is being very visible about the behaviors we want your team to bring to this work. We, in certain instances, we may require a third-party facilitation to start building on the behaviors that support good teamwork, as part of what that project will require. So the language in the RFQ from the very beginning, reinforcing it in the RFP, and this is going out both to the AE and to the CM. And then training our project managers on what to vet out, what you're looking for. Part of putting this in our RFQ, we're going to score against it, right? So being very intentional to show you that maybe number one on the scoring factor is going to be past success with this team, and tell us how you have delivered projects more collaboratively and give us that example. It might not be, that yes, it's a lab, like this lab, but it might be that it had this requirement for strong teamwork, and this is how we were able to leverage the teamwork to bring success on the project. So vetting it out in shortlisting and then interviewing for it. This is going to start to become a highlight in those projects, which again align to us investing more heavily on the front end. That's the other piece. I need our ability to fund more on the front end. I'm a firm believer that if we make the investment early, we're going to save on the change orders later. And I do not believe that these projects are going to cost us more. I think it's going to just change our cash flow. And so let's invest in the quality pre-construction work up front and to set us up for better success. So that's what we're doing, revising those documents, making it very clear to the community that this is what we are looking for, and then training our teams to interview for it, and then what is that owner behavior then in this different model too. It's very incumbent upon us to be very active in building that culture of teamwork on that project team. It may not always involve a big room where you're co-located, Not every project has the budget to support that strategy, but it doesn't mean that we can't find a way to structure the way that our team is going to work to still yield the highest collaboration.
Even with competitive bidding, right? Even without shared risk reward. Right, some of the other hallmarks of IPD.
Absolutely, and that's the thing that we can't have, and under our state contracts. Regardless, it's better for everyone. I don't think anybody would argue that these metrics in the bottom left corner of the last page is something that we're not all interested in.
With that, any questions, comments, thoughts from the audience?
Thank you. So when we take a look at the project delivery methods, we've gone from design, build to CMAR, design, build, and now IPD, right? And so what we've done as an industry is we have put our owners in positions to where we're asking them to make decisions more often earlier than they're comfortable with. And so my question, and Jennifer, maybe that's more appropriate for you, do you have any lessons learned, best practices on with any of these project delivery methods, how you've been able to improve on timely decisions? From Ohio State being a big institution, we have a lot of large institutions, and that's probably, if you did a survey, one of the worst parts about accelerating things, right? Having IPD or having faster delivery systems, but we're always tasked with what can we do for our owners in order to help improve the timely decision making that we need on projects.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm understanding the question. Like, what am I seeing that if I'm more intentional about this selection? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
I'm sorry, it's kind of an off-the-wall question.
Okay.
It's one to where timely decision-making
Yeah.
is now what is really causing these wonderful project delivery approaches to kind of stall a little bit, right? They're put together in order to accelerate projects, so we're bringing the teams on earlier than typically we have traditionally, so there's a lot of great benefits. But unfortunately, what we've done is we've put a lot of our clients in positions to where, you know what, this is too early. I don't feel I have the information in order to make that decision,
Yeah.
in order to take advantage of that project delivery.
Yeah. Okay. So, and this could be like during the course of the project, at any moment in time, right? Decision making can stall, et cetera. Okay. So, what is due to the owner from the AE side or from the CM side? I think along the way, and I would say we need your help in if you're a CM in what does that backwards planning look like for you, right? You can know if you need to procure a certain piece of equipment, or maybe you've got a trade partner coming on as design assist. Like when do you need your input from us? And to be very clear about that, align that with the design team's schedule of user group meetings, right? And then, that design team could come to that user meeting with an agenda, and that agenda identifies this is the goal of this meeting to be able to get to decision X. Because if we don't have it by, the end of September, we are not going to be able to write that PO for whatever. So it's your analysis of when you need what inputs to meet, the demands of the schedule of the project, and then just sharing that information. There should be no, this is all, it's good info, right? It's not aggressive, it's not pushy, it's what we all need.
So Jeff, kind of answer your question. We're seeing a lot more projects where obviously we're asking the owner to make earlier decisions. So we have to provide better information earlier for them. We have a number of projects out there where we're using the A3 method, where if we're looking at different options, A3 is an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. It forces us to be very concise with the pros and cons of the different options. And we get that we have to get that information to the owner quickly so they can make a decision. But, we joke all the time, anytime I'm in a project interview and the schedule question comes up, the owner's always asking, can you hit the schedule? And I'm thinking, I can. So it's very important for us to provide that information in bite-sized quantities to the owners so that they can hit the schedule.
I guess I would ask, how often does that level of information show up on your pool planning, right? If you're, you can identify, this is where I need an outcome, but what are the steps that have to precede that outcome to be able to get you there? And that's what I want to see, on the pool plan.
One comment on that, and just one suggestion. You know I was going to talk.
I was waiting for it, Jeff.
So what we try to do, and by the way, Barton Mallow has been involved in this, Turner's been involved in this, what we try to do, and what is with whoever you can do it with, commence a project with what we call the project delivery workshop. And just to give you an example, Barton Mallow, PNC Park, we did a project delivery workshop with the parties that would come, that we could get involved early on. That's why that was done as a form of a design build job. Turner's done it many times. And if you can just get enough information to the owner, and you can create the group that does that, even if they're not formally on the project yet. There's different ways you can create that group to come in, do a little bit of comparative schedule analysis among the different project delivery methods, what the fee structure might be, and we did this in public. I mean, before the, for the jail project right now in Cuyahoga County, we did that publicly with our public officials talking through it and had people come and comment. So you can do it in different forms, but the whole point, and you mentioned as an architect, you didn't know you had that responsibility to comment on project delivery systems. The whole crazy thing about that, and the reason we pointed out in the AIA document, that responsibility comes up in schematic design. It comes up after you would have had your project delivery system, or after you had an AIA contract that told you the project delivery system, and then it says you're supposed to comment on the project delivery system, which is insane. So you can, no matter what you're doing, you can figure out a way to workshop this thing at the beginning. You can bring in players. My only other comment for the contractor, on the contractor side, one of the best techniques that we are seeing to get the input of the contractor in earlier, as early in the project as possible, and I hope this is continuing to be a focus of COGENCE next year, is just continuing reliance on design assist. It is the best tool for getting contractors involved early on for at least 40 or 50% of the work. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll get to you in one moment. There's a gentleman in line.
Well, first, I'm glad you guys didn't put multiple prime on this because that is still permitted. Somebody should talk to the University of Toledo by why that is not the right choice almost all the time. In 2012, when construction reform came out, the state of Ohio released a document. I just forwarded it to Pam. There's one simple graphic on there that will help owners make decisions on this very simply. And we educate our owners every single time just with this one graphic. My favorite delivery method was when Turner was selected as construction manager at risk for the metro parks, and then they sat in on the interviews with the architects. I actually think that's the better approach. I love that as an architect because the contractor is protecting budget and schedule, and I'm protecting program and quality of design and materiality. If I don't have to worry about, not worry, but if I'm not creating the budget, if I'm not creating the schedule, I'm more free as an architect to worry about those other things. And I have a partner now that takes that responsibility away from me, and I don't have to worry about it as much.
Comments? Let's see, we have one question here.
So I guess one of the did integrated project delivery years ago. And what we did was for a school project, but it wasn't official, you know. So, but we worked through it with the school district. And what happened was we invited a contractor to be there. We had some of the subs there. We had the owner there. And then we had, it was long enough ago, there was all stickies up on the board, like 1,000 of them. We had a timeline, we had priorities. We had 1,000 things up there, and we added more as we went along. One thing that was so educational for the owner, which, you know, they're all K-12 owners are not necessarily sophisticated in construction necessarily, matters how long they've been superintendents, et cetera. So they were able to, you know, say, wow, that's a problem. The contractor would come in and go, hey, I can never make that happen. The engineers would go, I need this much time. I got to get this survey done. I need the geotech. You know, you work out through that. Everybody gets an understanding of what the project is. Very educational for everyone. The contractor is able to, you know, see the owner, what the architect normally goes through as far as, you know, dealing with spaces and their priorities. They're able to see it right off the bat. Okay, you're involved with it. Everybody had buy-in on the project, and it was so rich, you know, rewarding in a sense for everyone at the table. The owner was far better off than I've ever seen a project run. But you know, there are logistics problems, as we all know, plus the contract that you guys are talking about is a difficult thing to.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much to our panel. Great job.